Trump's Ford deal dashes Mexican villagers' dreams. The arid desert landscape of Villa de Reyes is a world away from the glitz of the presidential inauguration on Capitol Hill. Yet since Donald Trump was elected, the sparsely populated communities and dry valleys of central Mexico have been inexorably linked to events in Washington, D.C. Like so much with President-elect Trump, it began with a tweet: "Make in USA, or pay big border tax." He tweeted at General Motors earlier this month. The warning may have been aimed at GM, but within hours, Ford, which had also been singled out for criticism during his campaign, announced that it was withdrawing from a $1.16 billion 13 billion car assembly plant in Villa de Reyes. Some of that money would be reinvested in Michigan in what the CEO of Ford described to the BBC as a vote of confidence in Mr. Trump's business policies. Today, that half-finished factory sits idle, gathering dust in the desert. The car plant has gone from a shining example of cross-border free trade to an eerie monument to Mr. Trump's aggressive brand of economic protectionism. Trump supporters heralded the move as evidence that his harder stance towards Mexico will boost us jobs. "We need jobs to live honestly, for Jesus Oliva," though it was just evidence that the next 4 years will be tougher than he'd hoped. He had worked on the site for 6 months when the entire workforce was told they were fired one morning. "It was a decent job," he says of his time as a night watchman. "It was nearby so we could walk to work." Jesus lives in the shadow of the abandoned Ford construction, in a community of around 500 families called La Presida. Plus, of course, it was regular pay. Jesus now harvests cactus to make a living from selling a fermented alcoholic beverage called aguamiel and a typical Mexican food, nopals. At 58, he has few other options, but he fears for the younger generation. Many will immigrate north or go to other places to try to build their lives. "We need jobs here too so people can live honestly." I think that's where the delinquency and crime comes from, having no work. Trump v. the car industry. Mexicans. Donald Trump fears the state authorities in San Luis Potosi admit that Ford's decision was not good news. "It was very good news 9 months ago when we signed the agreement and announced that Ford was coming to San Luis Potosi," said Gustavo Orozco, the state's Secretary for Economic Development. Still, he refrains from criticizing the company, at least in public. "Beyond being disappointed, I have to be very professional and I have to respect what the companies do and the decisions they make. As a former businessman, I understand that markets and strategies can change. We have to work with them to find the best solution for both parties," he adds, before underlining that Ford have not pulled out of Mexico altogether. Far from it, in fact. Keeping positive, their assembly plant in Hermosillo could even end up benefiting from these international movements of investment and capital that have accompanied Mr. Trump's arrival in the White House. The local authorities insist that San Luis Potosi is still in good shape, with or without Ford, ranking 5th out of 32 states in terms of GDP growth per capita. "We grew 5.4% in 2015 compared to the Mexican average of 2.5%, said Mr. Punt, which he attributes to a range of industries from mining to food production. Nevertheless, there are likely to be complications ahead. One of Mr. Trump's key election promises was to renegotiate the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA. Added to that is the thorny question of more walls, both real and through taxes, as Secretary Putin puts it. As the Trump administration prepares to